Welcome back in ERB sports fans to another video. In this video, we're going to talk about the most recent version of the Geoff Wilson show, the one from last week, not the one from this week, because I'm sure when this video comes out, another episode will be ready for me to listen to. But last week, I was on my way home from vacation in the middle of Montana and North Dakota. I downloaded some podcasts to fill the time, and I listened to Geoff and Rob from Burbank Sports Cards talk about how is Fanatics going to 10x the hobby. Well, Rob's take was he doesn't think that's going to happen. And it sure as heck isn't going to happen by just making more people gamblers. And I do agree with that. He also had some really interesting points that I've been wanting to make a more well-rounded video. And I've tried to put some math to it eventually, but he mentioned about liquidity. And not necessarily about, being able to move cards, but to some extent, the process of when you buy a box, and I got a box here. When you buy a box, you open a box, the box costs you $12. How many times can you buy a box for $12 and never sell a card from that box? Never sell it back to a card shop, never sell it to somebody on eBay, never sell it to one of your friends, never make a complete set. How long can you do that? Especially for a lot of the moms out there and some people that live on a more modest income. We're not all infinitely wealthy like some of the top high rollers in the hobby. But when you're trying to 10x the hobby, at least in terms of the number of people, there's a couple ways of looking at this, right? You could 10x the hobby in terms of the number of money. You need all the top 1% to go, balls to the wall investing in sports cards. Well, yeah, of course, that's going to 10x the money in the hobby. But if Fanatics is looking to do that, they're not going to 10x the amount of people that are buying into breaks if they don't provide them avenues to move off some of the products that they've opened where maybe they didn't get all their money back, they didn't hit anything really crazy. They just can't keep putting more money into the kitty without being able to at least transact a little bit. Somebody made a comment in a video saying it's kind of like a pawn shop in a way. A card shop will act like a pawn shop, right? You open a box of cards and they'll say, yeah, I'll be happy to buy some of these cards off you for literally 10 cents on the dollar, right? You need the money. You got to chase it, right? Well, yeah, you're not going to 10x the hobby if you don't provide people that avenue, because at some point, moms, even kids, will become frustrated that the product has no value, that has no potential for for something to have an intrinsic value to somebody else, where you can then use that money, use those funds to fund more hobbying. I learned early on after I came back into cards, I collected cards as a kid and I did not sell a single thing. I collected during the junk wax era, a little bit before the junk wax era, and then a little bit, well into the, mid 90s. And then I kind of stopped because, life took over. I graduated high school in 96, went off to college. Cards weren't cool, so I really didn't care. It's funny, I wish I would have collected a little bit back then. I think I had an uncle who still collected Brett Favre cards. You guys remember Brett Favre? He had quite a collection of Brett Favre cards. I wish he would have enticed me a little bit more into to staying in it, right? Time in the market, not timing the market, as the old saying goes. I should have stayed in the market in general, not necessarily trying to go all in on the market, but you get the idea. So the one thing he said was that you need more hobby shops or more potential for, liquidity to be formed. Now, Fanatics has been acquiring everything in the space of, they haven't done grading yet, but you get the idea. They've done sealed product. They've done breaking. They've done events. They've done auction houses. The one thing they haven't, and they're doing kind of like hybrid hobby shop arrangements, and they also have contracts with lids, but they're not transacting cards as an opened product through those places. So he had a couple creative ideas, and I do think that Topps and Fanatics have already tried some of these ideas. They tried one last year with the MVP buyback redemptions. That was a great idea. I don't know that it has to be an MVP every year. Why couldn't it be a Cy Young buyback redemption or Rookie of the Year buyback redemption? Good luck trying to get the guys to move off their rookie cards, right? So, but, chase a random player, everybody from one team or something like that. There's many, many creative ways to slice that. and it creates liquidity. It creates opportunity for cash to change hands that you're not going to, when I ran the print run videos, you're not going to get, however many sales of all of these, if these are $12 a piece or $13 a piece and you made $750,000 of them, you're not going to get all that money to be spent without getting some people made whole, at least a little bit, so that it keeps the churn going. So that's the one thing I do agree. When you're looking to 10x the hobby, you have to find a way for people to generate cash flow. Now, it takes effort. By all means, it's not easy to create cash flow. I mean, I list a ton of stuff on eBay, not as much as some do, but I don't create an immense amount of cash flow for myself. And there were months where I wasn't selling anything. And I gotta be honest, it makes you think twice about buying the next thing at the store or buying a case of something when you can't feel like you're creating that churn, whether it be through grading cards, whether it be through selling the singles. So that is definitely one way that I see if Fanatics keeps increasing print runs, it's going to be very, very difficult to have that liquidity because the market will decide what cards are worth. I mean, if somebody pulls an Independence Day numbered to 76 out of Series 1 this year, by all accounts, it's a very, 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 very rare card in retail. They're sure as hell not going to pay for as rare as that card is. They're going to pay what they've always paid when it was printed 3 times less or 6 times less or whatever. So you have this sort of conundrum at the moment between cards that aren't valued enough from the wax price that you're charging, and the hit rate is so hard that people just, their pockets aren't deep enough to keep going. And with that sort of approach that Fanatics has taken, you will stifle the 10xing of the hobby, I believe. You're going to have to form a more well-rounded ecosystem that churns cash, not only for yourself. You cannot look only at your own self-interest or hobby shop interest. You got to look at the consumer too. What keeps the consumer in the game? One of the primary reasons I got out of the game back in the mid-90s, not only was it because cards maybe weren't cool, but pull rates on stuff that were valuable was like non-existent. I mean, many people already think we're in junk wax 2.0. So let me know in the comments down below what you guys think about where could Fanatics go to help create liquidity. Is it through more of the buyback redemptions like you saw with Aaron Judge and Paul Goldschmidt last year? Is it through lowering the wax price? Is it through lowering the print runs? Is it through creating more avenues like a ComC or an eBay that, PWCC is like more of like, I would say more of an upper echelon. You're going to sell auctions there primarily. You're not going to sell like your cheap stuff, right? Your cheap stuff primarily either gets sold by you, gets sold at a card show, or gets sold on ComC. So Fanatics needs to have a place like that where there's an ecosystem where, the wheels can turn over and over and over again and create a nice flow through the system. Even if you're losing, the flow creates the opportunity to not keep digging into your own pocket with money you keep sinking, just kind of throwing it down a black hole. But it gives you the opportunity to get a little bit of your money back so that you can have the desire to buy the next box, to buy the next single. So that is a very, very important point. Same thing can be said for if you hobby through buying wax, through grading wax, whatever. It's fun, it's entertaining, but if you do that, you're probably not going to buy singles of graded cards. You're probably not going to be able to buy a lot of cards through singles to then grade them. So you only have so much money. One of the people at my local card shop who is now retired mentioned this over and over and over again. There's only so much money in the hobby. How can you 10x the number of people in the hobby or the amount of revenue in the hobby? It's hard. It's going to be very, very hard when people don't get raises 10% year over year to then have a lot of disposable income. In many cases for, the more modest lifestyles out there, they don't have tons of disposable income to go sink on cardboard. They're gonna scoff at that and say, it's a waste of money. It's an absolute waste. It's a luxury, right? It's a novelty. It's like the pop wall behind me. How many people collect pops like that? You know, we collected them because we just wanted to collect unique ones and hold them and look at them and you know, sort of admire the rare ones, you know, from time to time. But I've never sold a single pop. I probably never will. But they're cool to look at. And so I would say with cards, they add up quickly. The prices of the boxes are getting a little bit too high. So if you're listening Fanatics, you're listening Tops, you've got to modestly control these print runs, especially even on the flagship products. I know you wanted 10x, you know, the amount of stuff you made. You went crazy on Series 1 this year, which was totally uncalled for. I'm sure you're sitting on a mountain of it in some of the warehouses out there. Heck, the hobby boxes and value boxes are still for sale on your dang website. So don't tell me those were popular. They weren't. So with all that being said, let me know in the comments down below what you guys think. If you listened to that episode, what do you guys have for a take? Did you think any differently? Did you agree with any of their points? Did you disagree with any of their points? Let me know what you think, and would love to hear your thoughts. And I will keep making videos like this because it's always fun to make a reaction to somebody else's video, because it's easy to make that content, put a title together, and throw it out there for you guys to comment on. Thanks again for watching, everybody. And if I see you at the National, look forward to meeting you. If I don't, take care, have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you in the next video.